Well, Jim, Irish Life Dublin Marathon 2024, a memory now, and I'm sure you have lots of great memories from it. But one special one was an iconic photograph at the finish when Ger Copeland crossed the line and you hold him in a really strong embrace, warm embrace. Looking back on it, could you tell us what you really think of what he has achieved?
That was a special moment, and again, I was only days afterwards when the photograph was sent to me. You know, the feeling that was there on the morning just came, flooding back to you. We opened the Lord Mayor's medal request early in October, and from the get-go all you saw was Ger's name coming in from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different people. The greatest number of entries we've had for one particular person since we brought in the Lord Mayor's medal. So it just shows you the number of people that he has touched, and each and every single one of them, when you read down through them, are amazed by his courage, his bravery. But again, he just bats it off, and he's such a happy outlook that it just touches you in so many different ways. His personality and his outlook to life. He'll tell you in 1 minute, I can't walk across the floor, but I can run. And the light in his eyes, when you see that, and the light in him, I can't hug the family with my right hand side, but I can on the left. Look, he's just such an amazing character, and the story behind it just really resonated and touched me big time, and you couldn't wait to see him on the morning, to get the Lord Mayor's medal, and then to see him at the finish was, a really, really special moment.
Well, Matthew,
How are you, Frank?
I'm great.
Very good.
That was some day in Dublin at the Irish Life Dublin Marathon. You out there on the road pacing away there with Ger Copeland. How did that all come about?
Yeah, it was definitely some day, Frank, and thanks very much for asking. It was basically, look, I heard Ger's story, earlier on in the year, and me and myself and Ger go way back. I've known him for about 10 years through his East of Ireland marathon series that he used to run. I was someone that was a big fan, and I turned up regularly, and Ger was there, and he's a larger than life character, and he's the kind of guy that makes you his friend, and even when you're competing with him, you can't help but admire him. And I was actually a little bit afraid of Ger for a long time. It's usually you'd meet people in running, when you're running races, and a lot of the good runners, sometimes they're a bit of a conversational cul-de-sac. You wouldn't get much out of them, but Ger was always talk, and so I got to know him over a few years, and became friends. And when he did have his accident earlier in the year, and then I saw he was coming through his rehab, I thought, geez, that man's doing great, and it wouldn't surprise me if he starts doing races soon. And that's what happened. He started doing races, the 10K, and so he did a half marathon. And then I caught wind of the fact that he was due to try and do Dublin, and look, Dublin Marathon, of course, is, it's the big event in the year, and especially for like Ger and myself, it's the one thing you don't want to miss.
Yeah.
So when I heard that was happening, and he wants to be a part of it, I just happened to drop him a text and say, look, Ger, I'm sure you've got people lining up to help you, and I know you've got loads of support, but if there's anything at all I can offer you in terms of pacing, or if I could pace you half or whatever, just let me know. Because look, I thought that the kind of time Ger might be going for, that like I would be able to run with him. I might have a bit of capacity to maybe give him a bit of support, whether that's, I just thought at the time, maybe you might need a gel or some water or something like that, Wasn't necessarily sure what I was getting myself into at the start. And from there, Ger surprisingly said, "Yeah, actually, that would be great if you give me a hand and pace me along, guide me along." And I said, "Yeah, 100%." And then from that point, we were chatting away back and forward, kind of thinking, I was thinking, wonder what's going to be, what am I going to need to do. And then in the week coming up to the race, we discussed a little bit about actually doing some guide running. And so of course, I sort of was frantically looking up for what's some tips on how to do this. But really there wasn't a lot for me to look up in terms of preparing for the day. So I just thought, look, we'll see what happens on the morning.
I think most people know the story now at this stage. It's been out there. Somebody skied into me. I thought none of it. I got up, carried on. Bit of a headache, a couple of days, took a couple of Nurofen. I raced 4 or 5 days later, and of the evening of the 4th, which was a Monday evening, I found myself in Beaumont Hospital and then in intensive care, and it's been quite a year since. That's turned into something much more serious than myself or anybody else could have imagined.
And even getting the last rites in the hospital.
Yeah, you look back now and it's scary. It really was just, as I said, a collision, a day-to-day freak accident. As one of the consultants said to me recently, there's a better chance of winning the lotto than actually getting this accident. Look, it's millions to one. As I said, there is a better chance. Yeah, you go in, you get bumped in the head, you race, and next thing you have a serious brain injury, which it's mind-boggling. And you do end up, I was last rites, so my organs shut down. Even now I have so many symptoms that are internal. Like people look at me and they think I'm okay, I made a full recovery, but my issues are all internal now. It was lights off, like everything was shutting down. Like in the space of 12 hours, I'd gone from working on the Monday that afternoon to that evening, going to give a kettlebells class until the next morning after being in 2 MRIs, a CAT scan, been told that this is not good. It was as you said previously, it was last rites. It was best case scenario 3 to 4, maybe 5 months in Beaumont, depending how fast they could get me into Dunleary Rehabilitation Centre, and 6 months with no guarantee. I'd lost my swallow, I'd lost my sight, I had heavy labour breathing, my hearing was gone, speech, so my body had all gone limp. It really was, like I said, in a blink of an eye, life does change, and it was changing quickly.
Ger, at that stage, you could have given up. What kept you going? What do you think helped you turn the corner?
I have a couple of parts of that answer. So yes, giving up, I was at one stage I'd say I was 2 minutes away from biting my tongue. If I had no soon-to-be wife, I had no children, I certainly would have bit my tongue, because this was not how I ever envisioned my life ending or being. So that, when I take away that answer, what kept me going? My soon-to-be wife, yes. Massive support, and my family. My large family, cousins, relations, brothers, but also my 3 children. And it was them that gave me the hope and the belief. And I have a faith system as well. I am a big believer in the Almighty, or whatever that may be for others. I know what mine is. I'm not here to preach to others what there should be, but I know what mine is, and that gave me strength. But just for my kids, I had been there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I heard other people, unfortunately, lose their life checking out. And I just felt this was not how it went for me. I had this belief and strength that I will overcome it. Maybe I'll never be who I was, but I knew that I wasn't going to be who I was at that present time either. I wasn't going to be left that disabled guy in a wheelchair who couldn't swallow, do things for myself. I always had the belief that I would get better to an extent. Maybe not to what I was, as I said, but definitely get better and improve.
And I believe you didn't want to see your kids come in and see you in the bed. There was a time when they came to visit you.
I posted a picture recently on social media, and it's me sitting in the armchair that I have beside the bed, that usually for visitors. And my kids were coming in, and I remember I asked the nurses, I said, can you just prop me up on the chair? If the kids walk in, I didn't want to see me lying on the bed, millions of cables strapped to me, tubes, whatever. I said, I wanted them to be able to see me, not to frighten them. Kids are young, and they don't need this trauma. And that was always my fear, the trauma this was going to inflict on them. As much as I was sorry for myself. There's no point saying I wasn't. We were all self-wallow. But I didn't want them having the trauma. And if it did go horribly wrong, I didn't want the pointed images of their dad was strapped to a million different machines. So I asked them, yes, sit me up in an armchair. I couldn't hold them, I couldn't feel them, but I could move my arms to embrace them close enough that I could be beside them, and I could feel their presence metaphorically, but just not physically.
And do you think your running background, you've been a very successful runner, do you think that kicked in some way as well?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. I think all of us runners, we're all stubborn. We have that built into us, whether you're, 26 miles, as they say. I'm a marathon runner, so I always think about 26 miles straight away. And that 26 miles is the same for a 240 runner or 250, 6, 7. It's still 26 miles for all of us, but we all have the stubborn nature to believe we'll get through it. Like plenty of people will applaud and say, oh, you only done 6 hours, you done 5 hours. It's still the person who gets out there in the arena to give their best, and we have that built into us. And for me, I've been called it over many years, pardon my French, a stubborn prick, and I have been a stubborn prick in many things in my life, but running is one of them. And I love to suffer. I always loved to suffer when I raced. So yeah, I definitely think that was one of the big factors in pulling me through was that stubbornness.
And you had a very good marathon PB as well.
Yeah, I suppose I had ran 2:36. I'd floated around, I think of the 300 marathons, nearly 90% of them were all sub 3. I was very fortunate. I was always very consistent. I could go out each month and run sub 3 with very little training, basically because that was my training. So yeah, I was. I suppose physically, I was lucky to be in a position, lucky or unlucky, whatever way you look at it. Going into this accident, I was physically strong going into it. I wasn't as if I was going in ill health. It was a freak accident, but it wasn't ill health that I was going in. I was actually going in strong. So hopefully, and people did say, the consultants did say, it gave me the benefit trying to recover from it.
And go back to the running and that. Where did the idea come to you through all that trauma that the Dublin Marathon, the Irish Life Dublin Marathon, could be an objective a little bit down the road?
For me, Dublin's always been number one. I love Dublin. It's probably the highlight of my year, whether I have a good run, a bad run, or an indifferent run. I love doing it. Now, I've paced it many times over the years. Now I've paced Derry, I've paced Belfast, I've paced an awful lot, but Dublin just has there's something about it, maybe because it's my hometown. And Anthony Lee, who's the race pacer selector for the Dublin City Marathon, and he used to come into me once a week, and I'd say to Anthony, I'm going to pace Dublin. And he used to laugh at me because I'd be on my Zimmer frame. If I was lucky enough to hold myself in the Zimmer frame, just the first couple of weeks even, and like the toilet in my unit was literally 10 foot away. He said, you can't even walk to the loo, Ger. How can you? But that was my goal. Suddenly that became a focus, and I needed a focus. I needed a challenge. I needed something that was going to allow me to have focus on getting back from my kids, getting back from my family. And then it was like, for me, for rehab, for recovery, for those who were supporting me, whether it's my rehab team, my recovery team, it just seemed the goal had to be the Dublin City Marathon. And for me, initially, it was 6 hours, maybe 7.
But you had a physio that made a big difference as well.
I had 2 great physios. One was the in-house physio, which was Sonia McConnell. And she, from maybe week 2 or 3, she really pushed me on every day, gave me the belief. And it was her that instilled that actually, you may not make a full recovery, but you're going to make a recovery of some sort. And a recovery that will allow you to have a good standard of life. And I suppose my mindset as well allowed me to push on, because I didn't believe I was going to be that guy stuck in a wheelchair. I couldn't allow that to be me. And then when I got released to the general community care, I had a 6-week period, a 6 to 8 week period with an outpatient physio called Sarah Burke, and she was fantastic. Sarah, by the time I was home, I came home in a Zimmer frame. I think within a week and a half, she had me on the trails and my poles. Another week after that, then she said, we're going to the beach. And she had me run for 20 seconds. Now, I'd fall over. I'd give a little, not seriously fall over, but my legs would give, because I couldn't feel my legs. My leg is still, as you know, we've discussed maybe, my leg is still clumsy. That's a clumsy leg, that's a numb leg. I can't feel that leg or that side of my body. I can't feel pressure on it. I don't know when I hit it there. I can't feel it. I can't tell hot or cold. And Sarah ran me for 20 seconds. We'd stop and we'd go again. And that was really just, I could start nearly tasting it again, that I will be a runner again.
And Dublin, like you were looking at maybe 6 hours even that time. And of course you broke all records there. 3 hours, 6 minutes.
I was very fortunate. I had Matt Collins as my pacer, as my guide, my personal guide, as a friend. I know Matt a long time. And Matt approached me. And up to that stage now, I've been creeping down. I'd gone from 6 hours to gone 5:30, 5 hours. I know it's getting slightly quicker. I had jumped into the Irish Life Race Series League, and I'd done maybe the 10 miler. I'd done maybe, I think it was 64, 65 minutes. I wasn't allowed to bring my heart rate over 150 beats per minute, but I could keep that comfortably at 630s. I was comfortable enough, and I was getting stronger. And as the times were coming down, and probably a couple of days before the Dublin City Marathon, I was thinking anywhere between 3:15 would be amazing, but 3:30 may be realistic. And then that morning with Matt, and Matt just guided me. Matt was a dream to run with. If he could run with, I said, if you need the best guide in the world, it was Matt. He was out, Ger, come to a ramp, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lift your legs. You're coming to a corner. And my body was known at this stage. I was fully, my vision was gone. All I could see was blurs. And he was going, we're going right, we're going left. And for him, because he's a 2:25 runner, he was comfortable. I wasn't holding him back. And he was able to talk, he was able to yap. And it was great. And then to come in 3:06, and we were on for sub 3 up until mile 18. But my heart rate started going up, and it was like, he actually looked at my watch and went, Ger, do we lower this back down to 150? We're up to 157. Still 6-8 miles to go there. Kind of tough, pull it back in. and enjoy the day, or else give the chance that you're going to go sub 3, but you may be intensive care. So he made a decision for me because someone had to make it, and we pulled it back in and we came in 3:06, which was just dreamland again.
And there's a powerful image when you come across the line. You're in the embrace with the race director, Jim Orkney, who had his own difficult year as well.
Jim embraced me, and the two were extremely emotional. Jim had his own story that year. His wife had passed away, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks earlier. I was emotional, and I think the two of us were just, we both had our story that year. We both were embracing it was raw emotion. Maybe he was seeing something in me that resonated strength. I was seeing something in him that definitely resonated strength for me. And yeah, you don't need words. When you look at a photo, you don't need words. It says it all. And for me, it still brings emotion out of me when I look at it. I know it's like a father figure. It's like it's everything I wanted to achieve. Everything, my recovery is summed up in that photo.
Yeah, it's a great it's Sportsfile image, actually, that one of the photographers from Sportsfile that took it. And of course, going into the marathon, you had a great surge of energy as well, having got the Lord Mayor's Medal. What did that mean to you?
Oh, that was great. So the Lord Mayor's Medal, it's a nominees. People put people forward, and then it's nominations. And that morning, I remember Jim coming up to me at the start and saying, you know, there's 1,500 nominations, and there's nearly 1,300 for you. We actually had to check at one stage. We told one of these fake bots that was just throwing in names, and then we realized people were actually giving personal messages. And coming from a running community, look, I've set up running clubs, I've been involved in race organisations, East of Ireland races, and even as a personal trainer, I've been around a long time, and to feel that people, it was humbling that people actually took the time to vote for me, and people actually said, you know what, Ger's, he's a good guy, I will take 2 minutes out of my day and put him forward. And that was humbling, and that was, yeah, it was a very emotional day. There's an awful lot of high points in the day, and that's one of them again.
Yeah, so that helped you as you were facing that challenge in Dublin.
It gave me so much motivation, and just even being on the course, like Matt will testify, because half the race I forget because I was in just how I was running, because as I said before, my body had gone numb all over, and your hearing goes, but just everywhere it was just go Ger, well done Ger, great Ger. There people used to laugh at me at racing and go, oh, it's like running with the Lord Mayor, but it was completely different this time. It was just everybody seemed to be cheering for us. It was just the goodwill around the course was amazing.
And Ger, of course, all of this had a big impact on your livelihood as well, and your business. That must have been very tough emotionally as well. I believe you had to let go of the business that you had built. Yeah,
look, for 27 years this year, so 26 years last year, I was always a building contractor. And there's 2 dates that kind of stick in my head. The end of October, I ceased trading. I signed the forms off, sent in my last tax return, and ceased trading. Basically, I can't go back. My body won't allow me to. I sleep, as I said before, for 16, 18 hours. My body is physically unable to do anything physical. So that was that. And then one I found really tough, I suppose, that's gone the last couple of weeks. At the first week in January, I had an empty van. The tools were gone, and I had a diary that was empty. And I've had people ring me over the last couple of weeks asking what I've been, and I can't look at anything. I can't, because I can't physically do it. But to let the van be empty for the first time in 27 years, to look into a January and go, this actually there's nothing now for me to do. That career is gone.
And there wasn't even a support for you in the line of insurance or indeed disability benefit or anything, I believe.
No, this is dumbfounding for anybody that does hear the story. Insurance-wise, no, because when the skiing accident did happen, I carried on. I didn't lie on the ground and say, get ski lifts, bring the ski doctor up, or I didn't go away in a helicopter. I actually got up, and I actually picked the guy up. The guy who skied into me and caused the accident, I actually picked him up. And I put his skis back on. I didn't dust myself off I went. I came home a couple of days later, I ran in Nusk. Therefore, my insurance was null and void, because it's not proven that it was a ski accident. Insurance companies will fight it. And I'll tell you 100%, when we did discuss with them, there's no 100% sure proof.
So delayed trauma, really.
Yeah. Delayed trauma, and absolutely. And that's hard. And then the other thing is, just recently, even applying for a disability allowance or disability pension, I was refused because I was told I wasn't disabled enough.
So if you had lain down, given up almost,
absolutely,
it would have been a different scenario.
Yeah, I said this to my wife Jenny. I said, you know what, maybe the best thing, should it be like some of the others out there, and you pretend and you multiply it and you don't fight physically to be the best version of yourself, and you say, you know what, I'm beaten. I can't do this. And if I lie there and pretend that, you know, I get out of bed in the morning, I may sleep still for 16 hours a day, but I still get out of bed in the morning. I still make my breakfast. I don't look for additional help. I want to be as independent as possible. I can't help that I have to sleep. I can't help that I'm in constant pain. I can't help that I wear glasses now because I have tremors in my eyes. My eyes get sore, but like it's like a frostbite feeling with a hornet's on my eye. I had 20/20 vision last January, Frank, because I got eye tested for work. I have tremors in my eyes now. But if I lay there and allowed myself to say, I have all these disabilities, who's going to help me? But nobody, like anybody with any state agency you've applied for so far, has refuses on the basis you're not disabled enough.
And you justifiably, you must feel angry about that.
I do feel angry about it. Like the year before,
Taxes
I paid, Joe, Frank, the year before I paid over 200,000 tax. I had sold property and we paid back taxes for employees that we owed for during COVID and for my own taxes. And I could very easily have said, you know what, I can target, I didn't have to pay straight away, but I don't want to think as a citizen, I said, I'm going to pay my taxes. And I did. But if I hadn't, as my accountant said to me, you know, you didn't have to pay it straight away. I could have refused. If I had kept that now, it was still in my bank account, and I would, very day to day, I wouldn't be worrying about pennies now instead of pounds, and because that's how it's become. And that's another struggle that I find that I deal. It's not only the struggle of your physical pain and your emotional pain, because it's still trauma, and you try not to harbour about it or get upset about it, but you do feel you have been let down. I've given my part to my country. I've given my part back. I paid my tax, everything up to date, but yet it's turned. And I'm not entitled to anything. Or they're telling me, at least at the moment, I'm not entitled to anything.
Because you're not disabled enough.
I'm not disabled enough. Like, how can you say to someone who has tremors in my eyes, I have a numb face, I have a numb body, I have organ paralysis and gastro paralysis, and all my organs are slowing down, so they don't work, because my nerve receptors don't work in my brain, because my cerebellum, I have no balance. But yet they'll tell you, look, I have never met anybody face to face. I've sent in their questionnaires from my doctors, from my consultants, and they've all said, you'll get this, there's not an issue with it. How can they deny you? And I'm denied. You
still have held no resentment or anything towards the young lad that crashed into you on the slope?
I've none whatsoever, Frank. An awful lot of people would say to me, would you like to find him? I'm kind of going, why? Like, what would I say to a 19-year-old, 20-year-old guy going, look what you've caused? What good is that going to do for the rest of his life? Am I going to assume him personally? It's nothing. Look, I'm not going to assume anybody personally. I'm not going to. His life has gone. I could have caused this accident numerous times through racing. It's a freak accident. It could be run by you, Frank, and we could give you an elbow in the neck. Just by whatever way you turn, we just clip each other. It's the same as the guys running on their heads playing rugby. It's a freak. Nobody goes in to injure or hurt the other person. And what benefit would it be to find that poor French guy? He has to live that. He's caused this. As I said, I may have caused it many times. I've done plenty of sports over the years. I've been in contact sports over the years. So I personally could have caused it. Hopefully I haven't. But it's not to say I have, so you need to look back and just go, it was a freak accident. It was the universe directing me in a different direction. And I feel that it is in a different direction now.
And now you have some plans in the new direction you're going as well, including, I think, maybe some powerful public speaking engagements. And also, I think you had some training in, amazingly, beforehand, you had been involved in a course on trauma counselling.
Yeah, I was halfway through a trauma counselling course, this freak accident happened. A year and a half previously, I'd finished up my degree in high performance in sport. And I have an Instagram page, and it was called Work It Out, Therapy for Men Through Sport. And I was only dealing with men who had gone through trauma, whether it's a freak accident, whether it was childhood abuse, whether it was relationship trouble. Whatever they'd gone through, whatever kind of trauma, but my plan was to deal with the trauma through sport. But I was going for, because I find when I run with young lads, I run with anybody, but only men, because most of my friends I run with would be male. And men open up through sport. Maybe over a pint of Guinness or a beer. Now, but I find, because I don't drink, the men that open up to me is through sport. And that's what it was trauma. And to go through therapy and now you're kind of going, if ever the universe was pointing me in the right direction, there you go. How much trauma do I need to go through to understand trauma? I have it in bucket loads now. I can really understand it. I've finished the course, and I'm going to be there for other people. And now, for me, it's a crusade nearly to make people aware of brain injury and brain injury survivors, because it's hidden. Like, you look at me, I know you look at me every day, Frank, when we meet up, or people look at me, they go, geez, Ger, you made a full recovery. You ran the Dublin City Marathon. You look great. And then you explain, well, actually, as I just explained 2 minutes ago, my symptoms. You say, how can it be great? I slept for 3 weeks after the Dublin City Marathon. It's not like I get up and I go, I'm me again, or I can go running. it's not that easy for me. Like, but I put the best case for. I'm not hiding it from people. I'm not going. It's all rosy and isn't it great? And it's not. It's hard and it's dark. But it's really, I have the mindset to believe if it gets dark, you have the mindset to get out of it very quickly. You have to think of the positives. Don't be thinking of the negatives. So yeah, I roll with it, and it's just, for me, I'm happier because I see things. Maybe I see things as last chance again. You know, that embrace, that high five, that hug, even that text message. It may be the last one. I remember this year on Christmas Eve or Christmas night, I went to sleep, and I was so happy. And I remember thinking, I went to sleep the year before so happy on Christmas night, but that could have been my last one. That could have been the last time I got to say Merry Christmas to people I loved, whether it was my children, my wife, or my friends. And then I'm going, I got to do it again. I actually got the chance to say Merry Christmas. I got the chance to say Happy New Year. And I look forward to days where I can get to say Happy Birthday and many more Merry Christmas.
Ger, you have a powerful story that really needs to be heard on a very wide platform. Thank you for this interview.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, Frank. I'm looking forward to sharing my story and embracing the world of brain injury awareness, and doing talks and motivating other people to share their stories. And it may not be, as I said, brain injury some, but let's just share our stories out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Okay.